I'm Nicky. I'm from Unfreezing in Yorkshire, which may come as a bit of a surprise, that I didn't go to boarding school with this accent. And 20 years ago, I took a market stall selling cookies from £1,000 a week to 1.5 million a year. I mean, imagine 20 odd years ago banking nearly £40,000 a week. We didn't sell cakes and biscuits. We sold two things: belonging and validation. And you've got to look and see what's happening in society. You've got to see what's happening in society to be able to find out what emotions we need to take people to get them to feel what you want them to feel, to do what you want them to do. So we looked at the audience, and that's what you've got to do. You've got to look at your audience and what they're actually feeling about themselves. I had 50 or 60 deep, 6 days a week at any one of my sites, low-income families and single parents. So we had to teach them, we had to sell. It looked like we were selling a box of biscuits, but we weren't. We were selling belonging to us. We sold the fact that when you stood at our counter, you were one of us at this side of the counter. You were part of our family. And a validation that probably some of those girls had never seen in their whole life. You know, you might be a single parent, but that little boy is a credit to you. And those two factors alone created that fortune, because the biscuits were only the biscuits. And you know what? We were probably 10% more expensive than anybody else in any of the sites that we had. What do I do for a living now? Well, I just take what I learned on the markets, modify it, and reapply or everything I learnt to everybody from retail to law firms. And I'm a speaker, which I love, because sometimes I think I'm sure, even though I'm not. So the first thing that we do is I would have to secret shop, so invisible shop. So whether it was a law firm, I'd sit there in reception for hours if I had to. If it's retail, I'd go to the same shop maybe 4 or 5 times, because people have got a very skewed relationship with the truth when it comes to the business. So they'll tell me one thing, but when I sit there, it's actually not that at all. So once you've got the truth, you look at the energy in the business, and you look at the way when the staff speak to the customers or the guests, the people that put the money in the till. I try to work out what those guests or customers are feeling. And once I realise what they're feeling, I have to work out what it is that we need to get those people to feel to unfreeze the money out of the wallet. So then we put dialogue, body language, maybe sometimes music together. And you take one of those components out and use it on its own, and it might not be that powerful. You put them all together, and it is literally instant. I worked with a makeup brand in London. This is going back 4 years. We were 289% up day one on anything they'd ever taken. All we did was change the way that the staff spoke to the customers. It was literally 4 or 5 lines that I can't tell you, because you'd have to pay for that. I know that what I do works, and I know that what I do works because last week I was actually out doing it. I don't work with a company unless I put the uniform on or the suit on and actually go out and do what I talk about. Because when people see me doing what I do, and it's so instant and so powerful, there's no arguing. Because if I can do it, I'm not freaking superhuman. Anybody can do it, because it's the concepts that work. You see, the world, all we want to do is feel something. All your customers, I don't give a stuff if you're a lawyer, if you're an accountant, I don't care what you do. Your customers come in there into your business, and what they're saying is, can you please just make me feel something? Because right now I don't know what to feel. You know what, there's bombs going off all over the bloody world. I don't know if my wife's having an affair. I don't know if my husband's going to leave me. You know, the government are telling me there's no hope. I've had to go on to numb. I've had to turn my set point to numb, because I can't feel anything anymore. I'm so frightened. Will you please tell me what to feel? And if you can work that out and make those people feel either belonging or validation or inspiration, they're always going to buy from you. And it's very real. because it's somewhere to put your kindness. We're not skanking anybody. We're not manipulating anybody. Everybody wants to belong. Everybody wants to be inspired. I'll tell you what my big driver was for finding out what worked and what didn't. When I was 16, I got my first job in a shoe shop, and I sold more shoes in one day than anybody else could sell in a whole week. And I'll tell you what happened when I got to the counter after I'd sold those shoes. Now, I were a young girl who didn't have an awful lot of validation in her life, either at school or at home. And I realised that if I sold those shoes in a particular way and created a connection with the customer in a particular way, that when I got to the counter, the customer, if she said to me, "Do you know what, darling, where's your boss?" And I go, "She stood over there." She'd go fetch her. So my boss, old Mrs. Waddock, had come over, and the customer would say, "This girl, she's just incredible. You know, we would never go anywhere else for our shoes, only here and only to this girl. She's absolutely fantastic. You can never ever lose her." And that gave me a validation that I had never had in my whole life, and I actually became addicted to that validation. I have to say, what I do as a speaking job now, it's still connected to the validation. It's not connected to the money. But the more validation I got, the more I needed to just take all the components to pieces and have a little look and see what worked, so that I could make it even stronger and even more instant. And I started to try different dialogues and just different ways, just maybe touching someone's hand or winking at them. And I logged what happened after I'd done that, and it became very clear what the formula was. And all I do is modify that formula and reapply it to anybody, from lawyers, retail, you name it. I've never, ever known it fail. And the way that you tell your story, the way that you tell you why you do what you do, that's absolutely crucial. Because you need to be able to tell your story in a way that has whoever is listening see themselves in your story. And if they can do that, they'll never be able to deny you. Because to deny you, they would actually be denying a part of themselves. We've got a massive problem in the world right now. The governments are saying to us, don't spend, don't spend, don't spend, plug the bucket. They're not teaching people how to sell in a way that works in 2013. So let's have a little look at what that means and what is really happening in the world. People's money is frozen in the wallet. We're on a default to no. Do you want to buy? No. Do you want to buy? No. And there's only one thing to do, and it works every single time. If you use words to create more emotion inside people than they are frightened of selling, they're going to buy whatever it is that you're selling because they love the feeling. So we put words together that create huge emotion in people and huge connection with people. And that's an absolute gift, because really, you know, not only are you unfreezing people and making them feel better, but it's also somewhere to put your kindness. And I think we've kind of forgotten that the top salespeople, the real salespeople in this world right now, are the people that just use success as somewhere to put the kindness. The kinder you are, the more money you make. Funny that, isn't it? When I worked at the airports, I've done a lot of stuff in airports, and do I ever think of the 4 million in add-on sales that we did on our first round of airport retail 5 years ago? Do I think of the 4 million in add-on sales, or do I think of the people that we met, that I could even tell you the name, the people that came and spoke to us again before they went down to the gate, the people who were literally reduced to tears by the kindness of some of the staff behind the counters. Now that's not in a soft way, because remember, we put 4 million in add-on sales. Does it not just show that people don't expect that these days? They don't expect people to be kind to them, to wink at them, just to squeeze the hand, to put a couple of testers in the bag and wink at them. People don't expect it. When it happens, people become very emotional. And remember, all sales are driven by emotion and connection. Costs nothing, means everything. part of what I do is you get people to expand the heart. And you only need to get your people having 2 or 3 customers turn around and with all of the soul say, thank you. That were absolutely brilliant and you're fantastic. And you know what? They become addicted to it, because isn't that what life is really about? If you feel bad yourself, you do something to make somebody else feel better. And the real successful businesses on the planet right now are the businesses that make people feel better in whatever way they choose. Doesn't matter what you're selling. One of the things that I do, I put words together that companies can use, but they're not specific. So it's not like a script. It's more a way of being. It's more principles that you would stick to rather than say this, say that, or do that. And you know, everybody is different, but you know what? It doesn't work unless you mean it in your heart. So it's not just words and body language to manipulate people. You've actually got to really mean it. And if you don't mean it, you shouldn't be bloody having it in the first place. So yeah, it's really connecting your heart to what you want to say about your brand experience and your product. But if we look at what's happening out there, not only in the world of retail, but just in business and in selling, everybody's saying the same. So everybody starts an email by going, hi, I hope you are well. And they probably finish it by kind regards. Now, would you want to work with that person? Probably not, because it makes them invisible, because everybody says the same. And quite often what you think you're different for is really just, it's what makes you exactly the same as everybody else. I mean, you could just go on and on and on with the same old phrases. And some people write entire paragraphs or say entire prose just on these trans sentences that they've heard and they've heard and they've heard. So people disconnect from them. Your soul thinks in pictures. So it's a picture phrase is when you're actually putting the person that you're speaking to in the middle of what is happening. I'll give you an example of that. So I've just worked with a 5-site hotel group. We were doing $9,000 a week in add-on sales, right, from go. And let me give you just a couple of the words so that you know the sentences, so you know what I'm talking about. It's the difference between, hello, can I get you the sweet menu? No, we're all right, thanks. This might be better. Just to let you know, I've just come out of the kitchen and Chef has actually brought out of the oven the most amazing apple pie. It's actually his grandma's recipe that he brought to the business. People come from literally all over Yorkshire to our restaurant just for that apple pie. Now, do you want a slice? That's slightly different, isn't it? So if somebody said, as they may well do, oh no, we're on a diet, well, you just lower your voice and you'd say, okay, 1 slice, 2 spoons. You know what? And one young man sold on the first night of getting that information 19 slices of apple pie on a half-full restaurant. Now that is absolutely ridiculous, but true. So that's the difference between trance and picture. You've got to put people in the middle. And also, there's so many components to what I do, but it just makes it just brings everything a little bit more alive and puts more energy and more emotion into both you and whatever it is that you're selling.